Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome especially to Ms. Graham's Taos Middle School classroom that is here today, is going to be here with us for at least a couple of hours, hopefully. We'll go ahead and move on to the roll call.
Present. Present.
Present. Okay, I'll ask Ms. Rosita Rael to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and welcome again. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, staff, county manager.
Mr. Chairman, under the approval of agendas, today we're going to have an attorney, Mr. Carlos Quinones, coming in. He should be here about 10 o'clock, and if the commission so chooses, I'd like to move up the executive session. At that time, we don't know exactly where we will be on the agenda, but if we could do that at that point, I'd appreciate it.
Very good. Okay. Any other amendments or changes to the agenda as presented? If not, do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved, Chairman.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, we'll open it up, open the meeting up to citizen concerns. This is item 5. Anyone from the public that wishes to speak? Ms. Penny Herrera Wardlow, good morning. Welcome.
Morning, Penny. Good morning.
I may have a mandatory meeting this afternoon, so I may not be able to be here for the animal control update. So I just have a couple of questions or suggestions that of my input, just in case you don't have it on the agenda today. And that is, first, my question would be, is an update on animal control by animal control? Sometimes will we have an update by animal control? It's a suggestion, only because there are so many calls, and I don't know if that's just, do I go to Sheriff's Department, and they'll have a lot of questions that probably are unanswered, but you can maybe, I can speak with maybe Steve Archuleta later on, and I can be directed in the right, talk to Sheriff specifically. So, which brings me to, should animal control be under Sheriff's Department or Planning and Zoning? You might have decided that already, but I wonder if maybe Nathan would be too busy in land use issues to be enforcing all these other citations that may be done by animal control. And the citations, if they're written and if the animal control needs backup from, usually they have backup from sheriff. And they usually have police officers that come and help them out if there's people that are giving them a really hard time, because it's really hard out there for these animal control officers sometimes. Or is it going to be planning and zoning that comes to their rescue? I mean, I don't understand how that's going to work, but I just want to make sure that we would be able to cover all these questions before moving animal control to planning and zoning, and I don't know if that's on its way. But so the citations then, also in the violations, does the money go to the county? Does it go to animal control for more, materials, what they might need for the, I know that they need, it seems to me like they need more things. I know that, I don't know about protocol also. Where is the protocol, and is it easy for me to access protocol? And when animal control has situations like getting dogs with the catch pole, how to do it, I think they need more training, only because recently I just saw an animal control officer trying to get a dog into this catch pole, and it's very scary. Also, animal control can get bitten because the dog can react and just fight anyway, he couldn't do it. So I just was thinking that there must be a safer way, a better way to be able to handle some situations like that. And I don't know where to start, but perhaps a meeting with even
Mr.
whoever.
Veta, to start off with, are any of your questions or points written so that we can get a copy of those?
I was going to suggest that I can make a copy
If you
of
can,
my questions
please,
and my
that-
points and send them to your office. And there's also things like, for instance, abandonment. I'm in real estate, but I notice and we get a lot of calls from people who have moved out and renters just even yesterday when they left a 7-year-old dog there. And I don't know what animal control can do. Can they follow these people? I went and followed up on it and found out where they are and where they're moving to, and they can't have dogs where they go, but the children are five children are crying because their dog they can't keep their dog. So I'm suggesting maybe ask the landlord if I can help with a fence. Maybe they can keep their dog somehow. Maybe we can help somehow with some deposit. But to keep a pet. But there's all these situations. This one is different, but most people just leave their dogs without food and water in the backyard, or cats in a house without food and water. And so I'd like to know if maybe we can address that issue also, like some kind of fine. Follow these people. They do move other places. There's ways to find them. So Trish and I get a lot of calls, which we go on, and a lot of the times we get a lot of calls on the weekends. So I would recommend or suggest that if we can have a part-time animal control on the weekends, or what we did one time was alternate weekends with an animal control officer so that they work from Wednesday to Sunday, so that we can have maybe a weekend animal control officer as well. So Trish and I are out there on the weekends, but sometimes we can't go to places where the dog is all wrapped up and tied up. We can't go on their property, and they can't reach the water, and they can't get under shelter. And so another suggestion that I have is if we can assist the county with maybe a flyer now that winter is coming, so when animal control goes out there, or we can also leave a flyer, but mostly animal control can say, are you prepared for winter? Do you have enough shelter? Do you have enough food? Just suggestions, something to get people's consciousness aware that we're all care, and we are, maybe even putting it in the paper, which I'm sure Trish is happy to do that. So I just know that as we're growing in Taos, there's less tolerance for neglect and abuse, and just want to offer our help. And I don't know if we have to help with the new sheriff or with the planning and zoning, but hopefully we can come to that conclusion pretty soon. And perhaps maybe we can get an animal control in town. But right now, I know that county is assisting town, so that's great. But we really need more help. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Archuleta.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, viewing public, and Ms. Warlow, thank you for your concerns. The animal control ordinance has been somewhat on hold at this point. As you are well aware, there's been a lawsuit that's been filed, and there was a inquiry that was done by the New Mexico Veterinarians Association. At this point, it's my understanding that the veterinarian from Stray Hearts has left Taos County, is no longer here. We're waiting for the outcome of that. We're also waiting, in a conversation with Mr. Steve Nadelson, the attorney, that they were going to do a counter proposal to what the commission had put in front of them as far as having board members on the board of directors with Stray Hearts. So everything has been somewhat put on hold for that. The commission has directed staff to look at the possibility of moving the animal control under planning and zoning. We have separated out that portion of the budget from the sheriff's department, but that decision has not been made yet. We're looking at options of how we're going to do that. The animal control ordinance is also, at this point, shelved until we can get over the possibility of actually having our contract in place. Once we get that in place with Stray Hearts, then we can move forward with having a work study where a lot of these concerns that you brought up, these are concerns that the commission has brought to my attention also, concerns that the staff also have, and that we've been hearing from the community in emails and in telephone conversations. So we will bring those in the form of a work study in front of the commission. At that time, people will have the opportunity to weigh in on the subject and move forward. But we were waiting for investigation to finish, the court order to either go either way so that we could move forward. The commission has authorized 30 days, a total of 90 days, I believe, for the contract extension. We're close to the end of that extension at this point, and so that's what the update this afternoon is going to be about, is to whether the commission wants to authorize the extension of that contract to move forward, or are we going to move in a different direction? And so we're looking at that and other options.
Sure. The transcript was not completed as of last week regarding the veterinarian, the board, and they will be deciding in the next 3 weeks. I know the veterinarian did leave, and so that's why they're not so rushed into the decision, because they know that he's not operating right now. And that's just my insight. I understand about the ordinances regarding Taos County. I don't know what that has to do with the shelter and what that has to do with this veterinarian, the vet board decision. It's a veterinarian board decision against the veterinarian. It is not against the shelter. It is not against the county or the town. It is strictly just his practice, and it has to do with that. The contract between you and Stray Hearts, to me, is how they're going to take animals. The ordinance, most of the ordinances, and I think all of the ordinance except for your contract, is about how the animals are cared for outside in the community, in the county. I don't see the ordinances having anything to do with the shelter. It only will help and assist the shelter, as far as I'm concerned, in certain areas. Now I know we're in discussion, sorry.
Thank you, Penny. I really thank you for those comments. It's exactly how I was feeling, and you just brought it up this morning. And I guess my question is, for Mr. Malone, is it necessary for us to wait? And for Steve, is it necessary for us to wait on our own animal control efforts? Is it necessary to wait for this lawsuit and the response from the board? Why can't we just move forward with making sure that animal control is being run properly?
Do you want to comment on that, Steve?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's all tied in together. That's part of the issue. What's going on is that we received a lot of these complaints from the general public and from people that actually worked at Stray Hearts. The Taos County Board of Commission actually looked at those issues and wanted to have some discussion. In that, we actually sent a letter to Stray Hearts asking that we have 2 commissioners or 2 appointed individuals from the community that the commission would like to approach to sit on their board, and then 2 from the town. And that was done in a joint effort between us and the town. So because of that, Stray Hearts said, no, then we're just not going to take the animals anymore. And because of that, we've now entered into a 30-day, 90-day contract with them that's just continuing to be extended. So we could get into all of these discussions, that's fine. Part of the issue, too, is that there's been a falling out of the board. The people that the commission has assigned to as being part of the board, half of them are sitting on one side and half of them are sitting on the other side. That has a direct impact on how we're going to move forward with the ordinance of that. And so what we were trying to do was we send a proposal to, again, Stray Hearts. We sent a proposal to their attorney. We're waiting for them to respond back. And initially they had told us that they didn't want to respond until this whole issue got cleared up in the court system. And so we're waiting to have the work study around that. We're waiting for the ordinance to be put in place around that, because it's all tied in together. If we can pass the ordinance and we don't have a place to take the animals, it becomes an issue. If we're doing citations and we don't have a place to take the animals to follow through with those citations, or to, when we pick up those animals, it becomes an issue. So we need to tie it all in together, and so we were waiting for this court hearing to move forward.
Long now. Thanks. I won't take any more of your time, but I understand.
Okay. Mr. Malone?
And Mr. Chairman, since you directed the question to me, I would just add to what the county manager said, that I agree with his observations that as a practical matter, if we want to have consensus about a proper animal control ordinance, we have to have peace in the animal community, and that's why it is all interrelated. As a legal matter, there's nothing legally that would prevent us from going forward, but as a practical matter, to get consensus about what a proper animal control ordinance should look like, We need to have some healing in that community.
Okay, I would say more, but at some point, we'll probably have to put the matter in executive session as well. Okay, thank you, Ms. Herrera. Anyone else? Sir? Go ahead and state your name for the record. And then we'll move on to Ms. Abeyta, and then the gentleman.
Good morning. My name's Harvey Yoakum. I appreciate the time. I serve on the board of directors of Stray Hearts. I'm also a concerned citizen of Taos County. Just as a quick update, you should have the updated proposal. It should be in your hands today.
We do not have it.
Okay, we saw the approval yesterday, so that should be coming to Mr. Malone today. So you should have the update on that. The communication that's going on with regard, the healing in the animal community, I think, is already starting to happen. I don't think there are two sides anymore, and I don't like the sides part of it. Concerned citizens had their concerns. They brought them up. Ms. Wardlow has done a tremendous job in working with the animal ordinances, working with everybody in the community, and there's been several others, and everybody's kind of coming together today. So I think you're going to see an improvement there. The Stray Hearts Board is a unified board, working very hard, a lot of positive things that are going on. So I think you're going to see some positives in the proposal, some good recommendations that I think the whole animal community can get behind. Ms. Wardlow's concerns are my concerns as well, and that's the welfare of the animals that are out there. What I've been communicated from a lot of folks is that there are animal situations out there that are not being addressed, that are ongoing, is probably a better word. There's a complaint filed, an animal abuse situation. We don't know who looks at it, if it's been looked at, but we know that the situation is ongoing with some of these animals, and it's never resolved. So whether citations are being issued, whether animals are being forcibly removed, we don't know. We just continue to hear these stories about these animals.
If you can elaborate, Mr. Yoakum, on some of those issues that are
Some
going
of them, dogs that are chained, tied up away from water, people not allowing us to go on site to help the dogs. We have two situations of that. And there are resources in the community to help people with this stuff, to give them better containment areas. We do this almost weekly, where we go to people who can't maybe afford their fencing, that kind of thing. We're always out there trying to help. And so we are a resource. If the animal control folks need that resource, and some of this is in our proposal to the county, if they need some resources, they need to reach out to the animal community and ask for those resources, because there are volunteers there waiting to go help with this. The owner of an animal that has put the animal in that situation has to be dealt with by the animal ordinance as it sits today. And if that's being done, then we have some resolution. Okay. But we don't see it being done because the animals are still in a dire situation.
Okay, so that's a question for Mr. Archuleta and Mr. Malone. There are issues then. There are issues going on in the community where dogs, cats, other animals are being abandoned, they're being neglected. What are we going to do? What is the county going to do today to address those issues? And it shouldn't have to depend on whether or not your board is going to come forward with a favorable contract for Taos County. It's something that we have to deal with today, because there are animals that are being
absolutely
neglected.
And we want you to know that we're here to help, that the animal community is here to help. And any way we can, the legalities of that. So we need the help of the county and county enforcement if we need to go on site to help a dog, to help a cat in a situation like that. We can't just go in. There are some folks that have done that, and it's created some tension out there.
And that is the reason why I put this matter on the agenda for today, is because I am concerned that there is a lot of neglect, there is a lot of abuse going on, and we're simply not doing anything with it. And I know, thank God for Trish and Penny and others in the community that are getting involved as much as they can. But simply put, I don't believe the county is quite doing all of what is necessary to make sure that it stops. Mr.
What we
Archie?
can do, we're here. What we can do to help, you can call on us. As long as we have the support of the county, we'll do whatever we can to help with these situations.
Okay,
Thanks for
thank you,
your
Mr. Yocum. Anyone else? Ms. Abeyta?
Good morning. I'm just here to give you an update on what's happening in the hospital. First of all, I want to address one of the things that came up was the study session that was being recommended by the county commission for us to have, and we had asked to just, if we could just wait until we had our meeting with our NLRB mediation representative, which was David Martinez. That did take place. That was last Monday. It was a very good session. We felt that we wanted to do some follow-up on that, and in November, we will be having a 2-day session with David Martinez, and wanted to just give you an update on that. I think you were very interested in that part. And then pediatric coverage, that was another interest that you guys want to follow up on. We continue to have coverage for newborn care only. We have hired one pediatric nurse practitioner, but we need 2 to move into full inpatient coverage for pediatrics. So right now we continue to do only newborn care at the hospital, and that's really primarily to maintain our OB services for our community. And our other thing, we are on track with the Women's Health Institute to move to the birthing center. We expect to be in that building by the first week in January, so that's on board. And then the other thing that we wanted to bring forth today is we know that there's a lot of news out there about Ebola and what's going on with that, and so we wanted to update you on what the hospital, THS, is doing in preparation for that. And so I have Paige Prophet, who is our infection control officer, who is going to give you just a little bit of an update of what we're doing to prepare for Ebola. So, thank you.
Ms. Abeyta, just real quick, my phone was flooded with text messages last evening, just hearing of the dismissal of the CEO, and then resignations as well. Any word on any of that?
Well, I can tell you that we have an interim CEO that will begin tomorrow. His name is Ron Davis. Very strong person that will be meeting our needs. The actual departure of our other CEO was a mutually agreed upon between the board and himself. We did have a resignation from our human resource officer, Lisa Clark. That happened yesterday, and we are in the process of interviewing for a professional human resource person at this time. We feel very confident that we'll be able to fill that position.
Okay.
I also had a question on Spencer. Is Spencer gone also?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had covered that last meeting. Yeah, Spencer did resign his position also. He accepted a really nice, really in his field of IT that is really going to work really well for him. So he has already, actually he has just this week part-time in the hospital, but we have hired someone into his position, and his name is Todd Nellenboff, who is also very strong in IT, and he has been working in our department for 2 years. So we look forward to working with him.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Abeyta.
Okay. Paige?
Good morning and welcome.
As Anna said, my name is Paige Prophet, and I am a nurse, and I do infection prevention at Holy Cross Hospital. I've actually been doing infection prevention for about 9 years, and I take it very seriously, and I'm very passionate about what I do. With the current Ebola outbreak, which you can't turn on the TV or the radio without hearing about the statistics, I believe Holy Cross Hospital is as prepared as possible. If we were to have a patient present to our emergency department that had either contracted the Ebola virus or had been a contact person with someone that presently has the Ebola virus, It goes back to the basics of infection prevention, which is good hand hygiene and strict observance of isolation precautions. We had a telephone conference with the New Mexico Department of Health last week, just reiterating the importance of isolating these patients. Just because we're here in Taos doesn't mean that we couldn't get somebody here that has traveled to West Africa. We're a very global society. So I've been doing several trips down to the emergency department on a daily basis, just reiterating the importance if we were to get somebody presenting with fever of 101.5 or greater, headache, fatigue, muscle aches, nausea, vomiting. However, this is influenza season also, and that's a typical presentation for somebody with influenza or some other viral illness. Most importantly is where they have traveled or if they have had contact with someone who has traveled to West Africa within the last 3 weeks. That's the incubation time is 2 to 21 days. So our ED staff have been instructed that, again, if they present with the fever and headache and the key factor, if they've traveled to West Africa or have had contact with someone, to isolate that patient immediately and close the doors. Then our staff is instructed to put on every possible piece of personal protective equipment, and that means impermeable gowns, masks, face shields, booty covers, all of this being disposable, and then keep contact with that patient to a minimum. We don't want, I've told the ED staff to minimize how many sticks that patient has as far as with sharps. If they're doing any procedures that could aerosolize the virus, they need to put on N95 respirators. More than likely, if a patient was to present here, they are going to be flown to UNM because they have infectious disease doctors there. Although our lab is very capable here, we do not have the testing for Ebola virus here, so any samples would be sent to the New Mexico Scientific Lab, and then that sample would be sent on to the CDC, and those samples take 2 to 3 days before they can get a confirmed diagnosis. But again, I do think our ED staff is taking this seriously. I've also included registration in the emergency department if someone comes to the window and those are their complaints, that they need to isolate these patients. And we're going to be keeping a visitor log if a patient should present, as far as family members or visitors that may be accompanying these patients, so that we can track them also. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Paige, thank you again for coming. I'd like to visit with you and maybe our emergency operations officer, so that in case something like this does happen in Taos County, we can have a protocol in place at least.
Absolutely.
And how we could handle that. So we can write that for you guys, and then we could do some training on that.
Absolutely.
So it's something that we should definitely look at it within the next couple of weeks.
And also the emergency medical services, they need just an
Correct.
update on this, which I plan on doing with Taos County as well as Red River.
Okay.
Also, I had been asked to talk about the enterovirus, D68. That's still going on. There is a neurological component to that, which I think has really gotten people's attention, because there's a significant handful of children that have not only gotten the enterovirus D68, but they've also developed polio-like symptoms, and that's because the enterovirus D68 is similar to polio. Most of these resolve with time, but there have been some children that have had permanent damage. So we are also watching for any children presenting to the emergency department that have cold-like symptoms that have become more severe than common.
Again, if possible, because we are on camera and this will get out to the community, is there some recommendations that you would have for the community and for our kids here today from the middle school?
Mostly, it's just these children are going to present with a cold or cold-like symptoms that increasingly worsen to where they develop asthma-like conditions where they have wheezing and difficulty breathing. And in a situation like that, then they do need to seek medical care, whether through their primary care physician or through the emergency department. And it's just supportive care. There is no vaccination for this, and there is no antiviral medication. It's just supportive care to make sure that their respiratory system is not compromised.
Any preventive advice?
Wash your hands and keep your hands away from your face.
Thank you.
Okay?
I just wanted to add that Spencer was the emergency preparedness person for our hospital, and that position is now Brenda Nellenboff.
Okay.
So she, when you come and meet with us about that, it would be with Paige and Brenda.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Okay, sir.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Doug Ellorath, and I hadn't really intended to speak except the issue of the animal control ordinances. I had a few things I did want to say. The intent of those ordinances, as it states in there, is to promote health, safety, and welfare of the residents. And let me go get my glasses, please, because I can't even read my notes. I'll be right back. It's to promote the health, safety, and welfare of residents and animals and assist in providing for control and recovery. A careful reading of those proposed ordinances would reveal that they are not at all ready for prime time or for consideration by the County Commission. I say that because the most basic tool in achieving recovery of animals, in tracking health issues, in holding animal owners accountable for the activities of their animals, which is registration, is not included. The proposed ordinance also includes provisions which are dangerous to the health of animals and in fact are opposed by organizations as diverse as the ASPCA and the American Veterinary Medical Association. And there are a number of areas where I think the proposed ordinance has like unintended consequences. It's kind of set up for, I look at it and say, this would be fine in Santa Fe, but not in a county such as our county. If you are transporting stock in a stock trailer, you must tether that to a fixed point in the stock trailer. If you're transporting your dog inside of your car, you must tether your dog inside of your car. If your dog is on your property, it must be restrained by a fence or by a trolley system, even if you own a ranch and you're on a section surrounded by BLM. If you take your dog between the gorge and 285, there are tens of thousands of acres of wide open land. It would be illegal to go out there and play a game of fetch with your dog. Falconry is legal in this state and is regulated by state game laws, and it would be illegal to own a bird of prey, even though it's part of it's for falconry. If you hit a jackrabbit or coyote, you're supposed to call 911 and render aid to the animal. So there are many, many aspects of this where one can see the intent was if you hit a dog, you should do this. But the language throughout is ill-considered. And so right now, and it appears to me that the constituency of the panel that put this together was well-intentioned and was largely out of the sheltering community. I show dogs. I compete with my dogs. I hunt with my dogs. I have friends who own ranches and have livestock. I have friends who use their dogs as working animals. And there's a whole range of animal needs and issues that not only are not addressed in the proposed ordinances, but are, I'll say, ill-addressed. And so there is a group of us, we just got together and we're revising the ordinance, the proposed ordinances, which we would like be able to get before the commission. Within the next month, we should be done. It's quite, as the people who've done the work so far know, it's quite a daunting task to revise these things. So it's taken us some time. But we will be coming forth, and we'll coordinate with Mr. Archuleta, if that's appropriate, in getting these, an alternative set of changes before the commission.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyone else who wishes to speak? Stephen?
Stevens Hall. Good morning. Buenos dias.
Good morning.
I'm sorry that Mr. Blankenhorn is not here, but I am glad that the government class is here. During a break in last month's September 2nd meeting, Mr. Blankenhorn approached me and said he disagreed with my citizens' concerns comments made earlier that day about the Black Interest Limited Partnership request for major development expansion, but that the moment had passed. As a courtesy, I'll return to that moment. I had said the tired and weary wealthy retreaters who were to be serviced by Mr. Samuel P. Black III's request for expansion should remain home and, quote, tackle the problems of understanding sustainability in your own watershed, learn the particular needs and requirements of building sustainability in your own backyard. That's where the revolution begins, in your own backyard. Taos need not become and should not become a nursing home for tired and weary wealthy retreaters. Attend to your own neighborhoods, to the problems and potential you find in your own communities and backyards. End quote. In speaking with me, Mr. Blankenhorn used very strong and colorful language in expressing his considerable agitation and disagreement with my comments. He said, what about being welcoming and inclusive? What about the agricultural land being preserved as open space? I countered, such preservation need only be voluntary according to the recently passed land use regulations, and that it would be best to conduct a survey and inventory of soils and soil properties that would serve as the guide to agricultural preservation requirements. I went on to say such surveys and inventories were used successfully in other communities and that I had lived in such a place, Oregon. Mr. Blankenhorn replied, quote, the economics were different, that this was not Oregon, just look at the Columbia River, end quote. He said he had inserted the word voluntary in the language of the land use regulations in light of the economics of this community, that the economic facts don't lie. He didn't explain or elaborate upon just what those economic facts are. I don't know what economic facts have to do with conducting or preventing a scientifically and factually based survey and inventory of soils and soil properties that would then serve as the proper guide for the preservation of an agriculturally viable landscape, an agriculturally viable community, a community of history, tradition, and culture that has survived and thrived for centuries. This long-standing history, tradition, and culture of a viable agricultural landscape now finds itself facing an onslaught of commodification and gentrification embodied in the single word, voluntary. There is recent and ample precedent for pursuing such soil and water surveys and inventories in this very community. In a letter from Community by Design to the County Commissioners dated 19 August 2008 regarding a sustainable land use code and presented to the Commission on 7 November 2008, it is said, quote, another planning and land use process that is occurring is the protection of the irrigated agricultural lands in Taos County. A draft ordinance has been prepared. It is included in the enclosed neighborhood planning template on page 16. An irrigated agricultural lands task force is in the process of being organized to review this ordinance and to develop incentives to help keep these agricultural lands in production. The irrigated agricultural, end quote. The irrigated agricultural designation in that reference sustainable code delineated such irrigated agriculture as, quote, areas that historically or are presently irrigated by ground or surface water, typically acequias, that are to be protected and maintained in this use. Some of the specific definitions are agricultural land in this sustainable code is a consolidated area set aside as permanent agricultural land, and Agricultural land is further defined as those lands identified by hydrographic survey that are described as having historically been used for irrigated agriculture, or those lands that are shown to be irrigated by acequia, mitigation wells, or groundwater pumped irrigation systems in the records of the Acequia Association and Office of the State Engineer. The hydrographic survey referred to is the 1969 Rio Pueblo survey that indicates those agricultural lands. The agricultural lands in acequias are further said to be, or it is further said of the agricultural lands in acequias, the purpose of this section is to protect and preserve the agricultural lands, the acequia systems, and the ground and surface water resources of Taos County by establishing criteria for review and approval of development, subdivisions, or division of land located within irrigated agricultural lands. And the specific purposes among them are to ensure the integrity and availability of irrigated agricultural lands in Taos County for future generations, to promote the conservation and efficiency of the water resources of Taos County for sustained and beneficial use, and maintain the viability and health of the historic acequia system, to require more compact development with irrigated agricultural land set aside to protect the historic settlement patterns and important visual qualities which make Taos County a special place to live, to protect the agricultural uses from the negative impacts of development and from uses that are not compatible with irrigated agriculture. As for being welcoming and inclusive, Mr. Blankenhorn, and I'm sorry he's not here, this is addressed to him, among the very first to be invited to the table and heard should be the very voices of this landscape, embodied in what the very much alive soil and water resources tell us we, this community, should be doing, not in some artifice of human invention, such as land use regulations and neighborhood associations. The first and fundamental voice is the enlightened and instructive voice of land and water, the landscape, followed closely by the voices of history, culture, and tradition. Such would be a community, a landscape, a watershed, and economics of respect and restraint, not an economics of commodification and gentrification, an economics of profit, an economics of unenlightened and unregulated self-interest. Mr. Blankenhorn has said in these chambers he feels amendments to the recently passed land use regulations are needed. I agree with Mr. Blankenhorn. The mischief and malice of the word voluntary needs to be revisited and redressed. Gracias, senores.
Thank you, Stephen. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item 6 is the minutes. Okay. Go ahead and come forward and state your name for the record.
Susan Pitt of Vallecitos, New Mexico. Get my mail at Tommy's Hill Post Office. And we all need good neighbors. But my neighbor has made my life unavailable to public services such as ambulance, fire department, police, or electric company, propane, everything I need to exist. He has changed a county road that comes right up to my driveway, 009, and he did that. I have finally found out after years of investigation that he did that with a quiet title, I've been told, and I was never, even though I'm the neighbor, I was never given that report. I was never a disclaimer. I lacked my due process. So what he has done is he's changed the county road to a little V area where he puts it in an arroyo. And yes, the county does maintain my road, but for example, during monsoon season from July 16th, they can't change my road every day. That's not what the county can pay for. So I was basically, I saw the rain coming. I had to go 2/10 to my neighbor, put my car there. I only went out 3 times from July 16th to August 2nd, 2 times for my employment, 1 day a week, and another time to socialize. It's very depressing. It's very frightening. Where I have to walk back there are bobcats in my neighborhood. There's bear up the road. There are, at the time, someone reported animal control, a large wolf-looking animal. I'm not afraid of coyotes. I can do things. I frighteningly have to walk this distance, carry my bag of groceries, because he has made this one little area for his erosion control. And it does not affect it. It's not like an island. It's raised land that, and then I can drive out, and I told him on August 2nd, I'm sorry I'm moving this huge rock. Had to pay someone to move the huge rock to get out, because I just cannot exist in the manner that I was. So I would, me a lot of research. This is what I'm supposed to go versus the Board of County Commissions regarding title.
Okay, if you have I don't know if our staff is this the first time you've heard of it?
It is the first time we've heard of it.
Okay, so, Mr. Malone, what would you like to?
I think we should set up an appointment with the citizen and collect her information. Obviously, we have to investigate and be fair to everybody, but I think the start point is to collect all your information so that we can investigate this.
I do have everything.
Yeah. And if you could, during a break perhaps, or just give us a call tomorrow and set up a time to come in and go over all of this with you. Okay? Thank you.
And Mr. Archuleta, from anything else?
Yeah, we'll set up that, any documents that you may have, also if you could make copies of that so that we can have that available and we can make the copies for you here. Okay? Thank you.
Again, what was your name, ma'am?
Susan.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you said it was County Road 009? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes. We have 4 sets. The first one, item A, September 2nd, 2014, regular meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Chairman. Second.
Madam Clerk?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. We'll move on to item B, September 8th, special meeting.
So moved.
I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. September 16th, 2014, regular meeting.
So moved, Chairman.
I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Abstain. Yes.
Yes. Okay, September 19th, 2014, special meeting.
So moved.
I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, next, item 7, awards and recognitions. We have the Employee of the Month certificate for the month of September 2014, and it is presented this month to Mrs. Karen Martinez from Human Resources.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask the commission to come down, please.
Well, good morning, Chairman, Commission, County Manager, County Attorney. My name is Renee Valdez. I'm the Human Resources Coordinator and also chair the Employee Action Committee. I am very pleased to actually announce Karen Martinez on her achievement of winning the Employee of the Month award for September 2014. Karen is being recognized for her outstanding efforts and dedication to her position as HR generalist. Karen was first hired on July of 2008 as an appraiser, and she completed the appraisal certification level 4, which is a very difficult task. On May 2013, she received her certification from NMEdge as a certified public official. Karen is always helpful and willing to go the extra mile to help. She greets all internal and external customers with a smile and helps with any questions that need to be answered. Karen has been an asset to the HR department, and Taos County is grateful to have Karen as an employee. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. We are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Whereas Brigadier General David A. Torres began his career in the New Mexico Air National Guard as a crew chief on the A-7D aircraft while attending the University of New Mexico, where he majored in mechanical engineering. He received his commission in 1986 as a civil engineering officer. He has served as a traditional guardsman, personnel officer, aircraft maintenance officer, and a civil engineer officer. He has commanded at the flight and squadron level. He retired at the rank of colonel in 2008 after serving 27 years. Whereas Brigadier General David A. Torres then moved with his family to San Salvador, El Salvador, where he headed a house reconstruction team that built over 4,000 homes after a devastating earthquake in rural El Salvador. Whereas Brigadier General David A. Torres has remained active in the County of Taos for several years, where he has served on several boards and committees such as the Habitat for Humanity, Holy Cross Hospital Foundation Board, Taos Land Trust Board, the Kit Carson Electric Incorporated Board. He has also served as the Taos County Republican Party Chairman. Whereas Brigadier General David A. Torres has been deployed internationally for the past 14 years, leading humanitarian relief teams to natural and man-made disasters around the world, from Kosovo, the Balkans War in 2000, to most recently the Ebola virus and the outbreak of Liberia in 2014. Whereas Taos County, along with the New Mexico State Defense Force, supports and augments the New Mexico Department of Military Affairs and National Guard operational capabilities by providing organized, regulated, professional, trained, and disciplined state militia force. Now therefore it be resolved that we, the Taos County Board of Commissions, in recognition of David A. Torres' promotion, accomplishments, and contributions to Taos County and to the United States of America, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 7th, 2014 is David A. Torres Day, presented this 7th day of October 2014.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just say a couple words, I'd like to dedicate this to the veterans of Taos County who have served tirelessly through numerous wars and perhaps never got personal recognition. I'd also like to dedicate it to the numerous volunteers who spend countless of hours volunteering in our community to make it better. So thank you for this recognition, and I'm happy to serve here at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, any comment? Mr. Archuleta?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to invite, under the next presentation item, our teacher, Ms. Jackie Graham, to come up and introduce the kids from Taos Middle School's government class.
Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you guys for having us. It's a great opportunity for the kids to see how government really works. Like mentioned before, my name is Jacqueline Graham. I am the sponsor for Taos Middle School Student Government. I'm going to introduce the students that we have. Ariana Aguilar. Please stand. Enrique Archuleta. Ashley Cordova. Daniel Cordova. Emily Espinosa. Michaela Etzel. Mia Garcia Martinez. Delaney Galligan. Zach Ginn. Alejandra Gonzalez. Carla Martinez. Esteban Martinez. Mariah Martinez. Kira Murphy. Natalia Quintanilla. Alicia Rael. I have Rosita Rael with me as a co-sponsor today. And like I say, thanks again for letting us be here today.
Thank you and welcome, and I'm sure they've learned a lot already this morning.
Yes, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would just challenge the kids. You know, they're our leaders of our tomorrow, and I would challenge them if they see anything, and, you know, as our community continues to grow, and there's always suggestions, there's always things that our kids see, and I would love any suggestions that they would come up with so that we can look at them, because as our community grows, they're going to be our leaders. They're the ones that are going to be here when we leave. And you know, if there's any suggestions, anything they see out there, I would love to entertain those as suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, also I'd like to thank the staff, Ms. Graham, for taking the time and leading these kids in the right direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, Commissioners, this is the second year that we're going to be doing this, and thank you, Jackie, for continuing to move this effort forward. The kids, just for the viewing public, today will look at Taos County government. They'll be actually visiting some of our offices, going into the clerk's office, going over to the treasurer's office, the finance office, the county manager's office, to see how the operations go, to look at where people do their work and what actual work they do. We also meet with them and, you know, sort of discuss, and Mr. Richard Sanchez, I believe, who's not here right now, but he will be escorting the kids throughout the day-to-day or this morning through that. So that's just for informational purposes.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you very much and welcome again. We'll move on to item 8, presentations. Item B, presentation on Quorum Health Resources. Mr. Chris Stagg, Taos Health Systems Incorporated. Welcome, Mr. Stagg.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, thank you for allowing me to speak today. Among my other roles in the community, I've been serving the last couple of years on the board of directors of the Holy Cross Hospital. And, you know, it's really a pretty good group, and it's all volunteer citizens. They work very hard, and their goal is to have the best health care that we can have in Taos County. In the last few years, we've had many drastic changes. Higher costs are coming to health care, and for Holy Cross and others, there's been reduced reimbursements from the state and the federal governments, and that's caused financial hardship for the hospital. And while there's a lot of things I could discuss this morning, my primary task was to present some information about Quorum Healthcare, because as we've had financial stress, people have questioned, you know, why are you spending this money? Is it the right way to manage the hospital? So I'd like to talk about that a little bit today. First of all, Taos Health Systems has an administrative contract with Quorum Health Resources. There's no revenue sharing agreement with them. There's no profit sharing. There's no incentives on the part of Quorum relative to receiving their fees. The governance of the hospital is 100% with the board of directors. Quorum Health Resources does not own or run the hospital. It'd be very difficult in today's environment, I think, as a board member, to operate a hospital without some form of agreement with an organization that would help you navigate the complexities of healthcare. QHR does several things. One, it advises the board. It offers guidance on challenges that we face. It promotes professional development for the management team and the board of directors. They provide board of directors education. They advise the board on a constantly changing healthcare environment. They review financial operations, help us reduce expenses, and they guide the Holy Cross Hospital relative to the Affordable Care Act that's been implemented. They also support Holy Cross Hospital relative to our quality of care. That care that they give us really is related to three things. They consult with us, they advise, they help us do best practices, they look at national standards. Since they represent over hundreds of hospitals, they really have a lot of resource, a lot of expertise in what's going on in the healthcare world, and they can help Holy Cross with the best practices. They also help us with federal and state compliance and federal and state policies, and helping us plan and look to the future. The other question that's come up with Quorum has been the issue of staffing. And it is a little bit of an unusual relationship. Our CEO and our CFO are employees of Quorum. But their salaries are really pass-throughs, so we pay that money to Quorum, Quorum pays it to the employees. The advantage of that is that Quorum has access to a much bigger pool of qualified candidates. And right now, as we're looking for temporary CEO and eventually a permanent CEO for the hospital, we actually have more access to better qualified candidates through Quorum than we would have on our own. And there would be certain expenses involved. If the Holy Cross Hospital wanted to go out and do a search for applicants, we would have an expense of that with a search firm and all that sort of thing. So Quorum, we don't pay extra for those kinds of services. The other thing that we do get from Quorum, and it's been brought up a lot, is our group purchasing. What we pay to Quorum outside of the salaries for our executives is about $370,000 a year for their consulting services. But through their group purchasing plan, we get back savings in around $600,000. So the net cost of the hospital is a better value because of that. And one of the things that I wanted to mention today is a lot of times that's brought up as the key reason that we do Quorum. But I don't think that's true. We would consult with Quorum or hire somebody like that regardless of whether the group purchasing plan gave us savings back or not. That's an added bonus in my mind in terms of making Quorum an efficient resource for the hospital. Again, I don't want to take up a lot of your time today, but I did want to answer some of those questions, and I'd stand today, or if you have questions regarding the board or regarding Quorum, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Commissioners?
I've sat in several meetings now. I think the hospital is becoming more and more transparent. Thank you, Chris, for that. I think the presentations that the hospital have started to, not only here in the county chambers, but at the town chambers also, and we're getting a lot more information. It sounds like the problems that had existed in the hospital are coming to an end, or they're trying to find solutions to them. And so, I'd like to thank the staff over there, the board members, for continuing to do this. The union there has been proactive in working with staff. Staff has been proactive in working back with them. Also the board. So I think we're on our way to a better service within our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Barone. I would like to say we have a fantastic staff at the hospital at all levels, from you know, the docs, down the nurses, the care, all the people that work there really do a good job for Taos County, and I'm very proud of what they do.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 9, contracts, agreements, MOUs, RFPs, and bids. Discussion. Item A, discussion. Consideration decisions regarding the request for approval of a contract between Taos County and Mr. Tony Vanilla, doing business as T-Square Builders, for the removal of old flooring at the Chamizal Senior Citizen Center. Ms. Padilla, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Commission, Mr. Archuleta, Mr. Malone. You have before you a contract between Taos County, Tony Vanilla, doing business as T-Square Builders, to remove the old flooring at the Chamizal Senior Center, and we're talking about the whole building because they have some rooms that have carpet, some rooms that have old ceramic tile, and some that have linoleum. So they're going to go through and they're going to remove all the flooring, and they're going to replace the flooring, and they're going to remove and replace 7 of their old windows. The funding for this is coming from New Mexico Agency on Aging. The grant funded was $13,300.
And Chairman, I was a little bit worried because it said removal of old flooring, and I was just, I said, you know, is it going to be like the road up here where we tear it up and then we can't put it back?
No, sir, I'll try not to do that.
Okay.
What is the amount of square footage?
It's approximately 3,000 square feet. We've already started planning for that site to be closed for a week. I've been in discussions with Mike Trujillo, and the seniors are going to serve out of the Peñasco Community Center. So we've already started trying to figure out the logistics of being closed for that week.
And what is it going to be replaced with?
It's a non-skid VCT tile that we already have in the Amalia Senior Center. Okay. It's a very nice non-skid porous, like a linoleum tile.
So is there, right now, what exists there? You said old ceramic,
the bathrooms have the old ceramic. When you walk into the senior center itself, it's just old linoleum. There's corners missing out of it. The baseboards are horribly torn. There's a lot of safety issues with what they have right now.
It won't be taken down all the way to the footings or to the level of the footings?
No. The existing flooring, tile, linoleum, and carpet will be pulled up. All the old glue will be taken out, and they'll just start from there.
I see. Okay.
There's no damage to the
structure.
Exactly.
Okay.
Chairman, one more question. Anita, I didn't see splash guards, you know, around
they are included in the quote.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, because when they're mopping, you know, it goes up the wall sometimes.
It does.
So, thank you.
Okay.
So move for approval, Chairman.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We'll go on to item B. This is discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval of a contract, CAP 5-15-471 for LGRF funds for the fiscal year of 2014-15 with New Mexico Department of Transportation. Mr. Earl Salazar, Acting Public Works Director, and Ms. Elsa Vigil, Purchasing Officer. Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning, Chairman, Commission.
Chairman, one second. Elsa,
yes.
Are these the same roads that were brought to us earlier? We're just basically ratifying them?
Yes, what these are is these were from those previous resolutions for fiscal year 14-15. These are the agreements that New Mexico DOT sent us.
With no changes?
No changes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because that's the way I looked at it, and I couldn't find any changes. So,
No, these are the agreements to ensure that we approve them and we send them back to ensure that the funding will be available for the fiscal year 14-15 for the LGRF funds.
Very good. Okay.
Before us, we have the first agreement, which is for the CAP cooperative agreement, which includes the 2 roads on a previous resolution that was given here. Let me see here where I wrote this. This particular funds that I need approval for are for Millicent Rogers Road and Chamizal Road, which was actually listed on Resolution 2014-41, approved at a previous meeting in September. So this agreement goes hand in hand for those particular roads to be funded through this agreement.
Chamizal Road is on, what is it, west of the Sagebrush Inn?
Yes, It's the portion at the end of Chamisa Road that obviously needs to be completed for that portion of the road.
Okay, and when will the work be done on these?
These particular ones, until the agreements are received back from, obviously, when they're approved on this end, and then they get approved through the DOT commission, until those are brought back, we cannot go out to bid or anything for any of these projects until I get approval of the executed contract from both parties.
And how long of a process do you guesstimate?
Usually, they try to get this done before October 31st, because that is their deadline to get these approved.
Okay, so chances are these, well, like Chamisa won't be done until the springtime?
Yes, all these projects, since Mother Nature is getting colder, we've pretty much closed that envelope for paving at this point. If there are any paving projects within the LGRF, those will not be done till early spring, like early summer.
Okay. So you need approval?
Yes.
At this time. Commissioners?
So move for approval, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and the next item C is discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval for contract SB 7807-104-15 for LGRF funds for the fiscal year of 2014 with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Ms. Elsa?
Again, this is the second of the series of 3 cooperative agreements. This one is for the SP portion of it, which indicates that it is for Camino de Medio here in Taos. For that particular project for the fiscal year 14-15.
Okay. Commissioners?
And I'm just, I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
I just concerned about this because, you know, if I know there was monies appropriated by both governing bodies to do a engineering study.
Yes.
For that road, I just want to make sure that we're not going to spend this money and then turn around and tear up the road and you know, this money is going to be wasted, I would say. But I just want to make sure that that's not happening.
No, it's not. From what you indicated at the last meeting, Commissioner Barone, you indicated that you wanted that to go towards the engineering and planning stage of it, and based on the very the scope of work that was given, which includes plan and design, those monies can be used towards that.
Okay. Just one. So move. Oh, we already had a motion and a second. So sorry about that.
Okay, and I had also asked, we couldn't meet yesterday, but Mayor Barone, that we meet and discuss some of the items that were discussed at the last NPRPO meeting that we had last week in Santa Fe, and Mr. Espinosa from the Public Works Department from the town of Taos was present there as well. And so there are opportunities to go for some more funding in order to make sure that the middle road is eventually completed. And so I would like for us to possibly meet at a very near future to discuss some of the items that were discussed in that meeting. And there are some deadlines that need to be met before the end of the year, I believe, actually before the month of November. And so if we can have a meeting to get that done, I would really appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'll have Renell reschedule that meeting.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Ms. Elsa, another one, discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval of contract SP 515-185 for LGRF funds for 2014-15 with New Mexico Department of Transportation.
This is the third of the 3 agreements, which is the SB cooperative agreement. And this one will actually cover 2 roads that were indicated on the resolution 2014-43, which is Santa Barbara Road and then Camino en Medio out there in San Cristobal.
Okay. I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then we have item E, discussion, consideration, decisions regarding approval of award for RFP for 2015-1. This is for the Rocky Mountain Youth Corps for thinning of defensible space in Taos Canyon in accordance with the Wildlife Urban Interface and Hazardous Fuels Reduction Grants Program.
So Chairman, before we go on, Elsa, so E F, G, and H, basically, we had a pool of money, and they broke those up into smaller contracts and awarded them to all the different subcontractors, is that?
Yeah, yes, this RFP we had obviously 4 participants, and it was given as a multi-award based on the ranking and review from the evaluation committee. And so that's how it's broken out by acreage and per the amount. For this particular one on E for the Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, the reasoning there, it doesn't indicate contract is because the contract is below the $20,000, which doesn't require commission approval. So for that particular one, I'm asking to have that bid award awarded to Rocky Mountain Youth Corps for the amount of 2.7 acres.
So, with that said, Chairman, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve. Basically, we broke them up and gave everybody a little bit of work.
Yes, everybody got a chunk of the work that's out there that was proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item F.
So move for approval, Chairman.
Okay.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item G.
So move for approval, Chairman.
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And item H.
So move for approval, Chairman.
Second. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Item 10.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a comment real quick. Elsa, if I could ask you to, we did a spreadsheet for the commissioners that we should be updating on a monthly basis and giving it to them for all the road projects. Could we do the same thing for this, just so that they know where the projects are, they know when they're going to be going and what's going to be happening on that, and then that way we could give that to them also with their monthly calendar?
I'll let Anita speak to that since she's handling this grant.
And Chairman, is there going to be, after, I know a lot of these were required because of the steepness of slope and stuff, there's some pile and burn. Will there be dates that they'll?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Barone, yes, sir. What we're going to do this time is a little different. We still have a couple of landowners that need to be burned from the second phase. We're actually going to contact Dorotea Martinez so that she can put that on the website, and we know when the burn dates are going to be. There was some confusion over the summertime. There were 2 different thinning projects going on, not only our non-federal land grant, but Taos Soil and Water was also going through a thinning project, and there was some confusion as to who was burning at that time. So with this phase, this was a totally different project for Taos County, so we've learned a lot about thinning and what goes into it with the planning stages. But I just wanted to let you know, at this time, this is our 3rd and final stage, so it will be done by December 19th. In total acres that have been thinned on these non-federal lands is 124 acres. So it is, it has been a great project, and we will be putting in a grant application for funds for next year. And at that point, we'll decide, we'll meet with BLM and State Forestry to see where their NEPA environmentals have been cleared. It'll either be in the Gallina Canyon area, or it will be in the Peñasco area.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 10. This is resolutions and ordinances. Item A, discussion, consideration, decision regarding Resolution 2014-15, resolution supporting the 2015 legislative priorities of the New Mexico Association of Counties. Steve?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, what you have in front of you, Commissioners, is the actual resolutions 2014-45. These are supporting the legislative priorities for New Mexico Association of Counties. I do want to mention that I also received an email message from Commissioner Blankenhorn, and he also is in support of this. He also feels that there are some of these things that we don't have to pass here within Taos County. That's fine, but this would give the Association of Counties the ability to move forward with the legislators to make sure that we look at this. The one that's the most important to us, of course, is the Safety Net Care Pool. That's House Bill 268. for Taos County. And then the second one would be the Southwest Chief Amtrak Services. I'm not sure if the commission is aware of this or not, but because that was not funded at the federal level this last year, they were looking at actually rerouting the whole Amtrak service, which would take it out of Raton and Santa Fe County and rerouting it down through Clovis. The northern New Mexico managers basically got together with the association, and the association at this point is backing that we continue that service through the Lamy, Raton area so that we don't lose that income, we don't lose that revenue coming into northern New Mexico.
And also Representative Gonzalez is very much supportive of this.
Yes, absolutely. So those are the main ones out of there, and I stand for any questions from the commission.
And Steve and Chairman, you know, we always talk about PILT, you know, and I know it's a federal thing, but is it something that should be supported within, you know, the local counties? Because I'm just putting that question out.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Commissioner Barone, we actually did pass a resolution on PILT last year when it was in jeopardy. The Association of County and all western states in the United States actually support PILT, and that's also going to be something that is on item D that you'll see under resolution and ordinances that will be coming in front of this commission. I'll be talking about that probably in the next 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why I knew you were going to do it, but I just needed to know if it should be on this type of resolution also.
It's not something that the board of directors from the association passed in conjunction with this. It's something that they've already done as a standalone. We've also had our congressional delegation actually pass that resolutions also in support of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Archuleta, would this, I know I've been talking about the community center in Cuesta. Would this be the time to submit for some monies, capital outlay monies for community center in Cuesta, or would I have to just wait on this?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the community center in Cuesta is a legislative priority that Taos County has, and that we have already been talking with Senator Cisneros and Representative Gonzalez about. So I can bring that up under the manager's report. I believe it's an agenda item today, and then we're going to have future. This is something that counties statewide are passing together in order to have a united front on that. So I'm sure Clovis or one of them don't want to pass a statewide resolution on the community center. So, but it is something that is on our list as far as resolutions go for Taos County.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, sir.
So move for approval of resolution number 2014-45.
Okay. I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the next item is discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval of Resolution 2014-46, a resolution withdrawing and repealing the request for CAP funding for certain roads in Taos County. Resolution number 2013-57, substituting the request for the same funding for different roads.
Good morning, Chair, Commission. Before you, you have Resolution 2014-46. In being in contact with our LGF coordinator with New Mexico DOT District 5, New Mexico DOT is requiring any changes made within the grant itself or the actual agreement. If there's any road changes, any scope changes, they are requiring a resolution every single time. So this is why I'm before you here today. These funds are in regards to the FY 13-14. After reviewing all the paperwork, I had noticed in the resolutions, the particular roads that were listed on the original resolution were not the roads that were finalized in terms of what the commission wanted those funds to go to. So I am here today to ask approval for this resolution to go through so we may submit to New Mexico DOT to have our paper trail and have the correct roads that are going for those fundings. It's only affecting the CAP funding and the SP funding. The school bus funding was all geared to Melissa and Rogers, which does not have to change, so that particular resolution does not need to be changed, the original one.
What were the The previous roads.
The previous roads that were on this one in particular, it was Weimar Road and it's Abraguero? Yeah, it's a hard word. Road in Cuesta. But since we did get a CDBG grant for that particular road, this is why we were dropping that one in particular. And as well as it was indicated, of course, by Commissioner Duran that Upper Lower and Lower Llano Road, de San Juan, were going to be replaced for Weimar Road.
Okay, and then those are the only roads?
Those are the only roads, and it affects both resolutions. The same roads for CAP were also listed on the SP resolution, original resolution, so those 3 roads will be replacing the 2 that were there originally.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the next one. Go ahead.
Oh, the next one? The next one is for the SP co-op agreement. Again, we're replacing the 2 previous roads and repealing those off the original resolution and replacing them with Melissa and Rogers Upper and Lower Road in Llano de San Juan in the Penasco area.
Again, the previous roads were?
The previous roads were Weimar and Abraguero. It's a hard word, it's a lot. Road in Cuesta.
Okay.
So move to approve Resolution 2014-47.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And item 10D, discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval of Resolution 2014-48, a resolution supporting the 2015 year PILT program. This is Commissioner Abroni. This is probably what you were asking about.
Yep, so move for approval of
Okay.
Resolution 2014-48.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Archuleta, did you want to say anything with regards to this? So motion has been made and seconded. Go ahead, Mr. Archuleta.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the only thing that I was going to add was that last year, it was actually denied at the federal level. We did a lot of scrounging around and trying to put some of our senators and representatives and actually got that passed through the Farm Bill. We had it inserted and passed through there. So this resolution would actually help us try to support it and move it forward, being a little proactive in that process.
Thank you very much. And it's definitely something that the New Mexico Association of Counties is heavily supporting as well. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Thielke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for your information, the Monsanto Protection Act is also the back door of the Farm Bill.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thielke. We'll move on to item 11, Department Matters. Item A, discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval of roof repairs at the Phil Lovato building. Ms. Anita Padilla, back again. Good morning.
Back again. I still have another one after this. So you have before you a quote from Wayne Rutherford General Contractors. He is a CES vendor, so we're going to utilize the CES contract for this. It's in the amount of $49,933. These repairs will be funded out of a New Mexico Agency on Aging award. The amount of that award was $62,000. We have Williamson Restoration already under contract that they are performing the mold remediation and the repair of one of the walls where the mold was located. So after the expenditures of William Restoration and Wayne Rutherford General Contractors, we will still have $4,067.78 to spend on the center.
Okay. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second, and Mr. Malone, CES, I guess we have enough experience with CES to move forward in that direction?
We do, Commissioner. CES is the Cooperative Educational Service. They've been around for 30 years at least, and they provide cooperative procurement, and various vendors that we've used multiple times over many years have CES contracts. The actual contract will come back to you, but because of the process where a purchase order has to be issued to get the CES contract in motion, Anita needed approval for issuing that initially.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need a call for a vote.
Yeah, motion. There's motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item B, discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval of Department of Transportation project El Camino del Medio on the amount of $130,000. This will expire on 6/30 of 2018. Ms. Padilla?
Ta-da, it's finally here. Nobody was as surprised as I was to receive that grant agreement last week, because we were told that the bonds weren't going to be sold until January. So we do have it. I have been in discussion with Francia Espinosa, who assures me that the RFP process is underway. So this $130,000 will be utilized to pay for plan and design on Camino de Medio.
From what point to what point, do you know?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen any of the preliminary work that's been done by French.
Can you find out, please?
I sure can.
And let us know.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, go ahead, Mayor.
Go ahead. I believe there's an ad alternate to that, and the ad alternate, it's from up to 240 with an ad alternate on Tom Holder Road.
Right, but that's the ad alternate. The actual plan and design will start 240, basically, and go up north of town, from the county into the city and then back out to the county.
Yeah.
Would you still like me to get actuals for you?
Please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion. Is there a motion?
So moved, Chairman.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We'll move on to item 11C, discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval for the remount services provided by the Phoenix Group through HGAC from Unit 2727 onto a 2014 Chevy G3 500 4x2 diesel. Mr. Joaquin Gonzalez, good morning.
Good morning, Commission, Mr. Chairman, members of the audience. So we received the lease agreement from Holy Cross Hospital for $140,000. We received that about a month and a half ago. The cost for this remount will come from that lease agreement. The total cost for this is $91,000 for the remount service. This is the unit that was replaced by the new truck that we recently received for Peñasco. So this truck right now is unusable, it's out of service, it has a lot of engine issues. Excuse me. So the cost for that is $91,000. The rest of the remaining balance of the $140,000 will be to stock the truck, which will be for a new power lift gurney, equipment, new monitors, new ventilators. That will cover the cost of the remaining balance of the $140,000.
Okay.
Chairman? Commissioners, just one question, Joaquin. Why a 4x2 instead of 4x4?
A lot of questions are asked about that, but as you all know, there was a recent 4x4 unit that was purchased by a previous EMS director. Right. That truck is unusable. We only use that if it's absolutely necessary. I don't know how to put this. The comfort level for our patients is not very feasible in that unit. It's very rough. We can't take that truck on transfers. We can't take it out of town. It's just only used when necessary. So we really don't need a 4x4 unit in Taos because of the rough ride that it provides for our patients. But what I did equip with this truck was the on-spot chain systems, what we use pretty frequently in the winter times for the slick roads. So that's why it's my decision.
Joaquin, if you do need a 4x4, you got that other one?
We still have that other
Okay,
one,
all right.
yes, sir.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second. And Joaquin, I would just want to thank you for your leadership in that department. Since you've come on board, that department has kind of stabilized, and you know, I see a number of the employees there, you know, and it's great to see them, you know, supporting our young athletes at the fields, supporting the different, I want to say, activities that happen on the plaza. thank you and your staff for what you guys continue to do and the service you provide.
You're welcome.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we'll move on to item D. This is a discussion, consideration, decisions regarding the approval of an easement for Kit Carson Electric to run power lines for the homeless shelter. Mr. Richard Sanchez.
Walking in, we're switching Mr. Flores and
Okay.
Mr. Sanchez on the tour with Ms. Graham's kids.
Okay, go ahead. There he is here.
Brent. Chairman, Commissioners, let's see, what are we on? Homeless shelter easement permission. What you have in your packets is Kit Carson's standard easement agreement in order for us to get electricity not only to the homeless shelter, to that piece of property, because there's no electrical power on the Albright side. We have to grant Kit Carson a 10-foot easement from the center line of their power line. It would run along the Albright Street, so it'd be from the property line 10 feet in. Setback requirements for the zoning from the town of Taos are 10 feet, so it really doesn't impact anything other than maybe some landscaping if they had to do service work on the line. So it's standard easement, that same kind of easement that we did here to bring power to this facility that'll allow us to get power to the homeless shelter and be ready in case we build any kind of building, fencing, security, we'll have power on the whole front piece of property.
Is this underground or overhead?
This will be underground. Any questions?
No?
So move.
Okay. I'll go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and second. Any other discussion, sir?
I'd like to talk to E when we get there.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We'll move on to item E.
Okay, item E, Chairman, Commissioners. Item E is a request by the Board of Directors of the homeless shelter to see if the county could assist in the excavation, street cutting, and backfill and compaction for the water line. The water line on Albright Street is on the north side of the street and on this side of the street. So they've gotten quotes from independent contractors, and the expensive part of it is cutting the asphalt, doing the excavation in the street, backfill, compacting, and repatching the asphalt. The board has asked if the commission would be able to help with Public Works. The actual plumbing work would still be done by an independent contractor that the board would have to hire because we don't have a plumbing contractor on staff. But they are asking if we could help assist them with street cutting, the excavation, and backfill and patching of the street.
Okay.
Questions? Sir?
Richard, how long do you think this would take?
Shouldn't be more than 2 days at the very most. I don't know how familiar the town staff is with the actual line that's there, so sometimes in past experience from my projects, occasionally it's supposed to be a 4-inch line, you'll open it up and it's a 6-inch line, and sometimes the saddle might not be available. So that's the biggest issue. Hopefully, it's a continuation of the line that we tied into, so we do know it's I believe, a 6-inch line in the street. And so they would get their saddle and have everything ready. It'd be one day to open it up, do the plumbing, and then it takes a few hours to backfill and compact and do the asphalt. So I would hope not more than 2 days.
And the reason I'm asking, this means you'd be closing.
We'd probably have to close, we definitely have to close Albright for a few hours while we do the actual pit, depending on how deep it is. If it's more than 4 feet deep, you have to have a 2-to-1 setback, or you have to shore it to be within OSHA standards for excavation. So it depends on how deep it is. If it's around 4 feet, I think that's what it was. I'd have to look at the pictures I took while we were doing this complex. It shouldn't be more than 4 to 5 hours. The hardest part is exposing it because you don't want to hit it. There's a lot of handwork around it. But no more than 2 days. 1 day and the following day to close it up.
But possibly a closure of the road for a couple hours.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Morning, I'm Jay Wood, Director of the Men's Shelter, as most of you know. First and foremost, I'd like to really publicly thank Richard for all his help on this. We wouldn't have gotten to where we are today without his help. But as Richard mentioned, we got some bids, one from Phoenix, Bob Draper, to do everything from the cut to running the plumbing to the shelter of a little over $16,000. We'd budgeted $8,000. And as Richard mentioned, what I came to find out was it's the street cut that's killing us. So I, with Richard's help, am seeking county and town help on getting at least the water stubbed out under the sidewalk, and then perhaps this tap in for the sewer, and then we could take it from there, which is $2,000 to $3,000. So, we've got total $24,000 budgeted for this relocation effort, and if I've got to spend $16,000 to just get the water into the shelter, we're going to be croaked. So I'm on bended knee asking support and help from both the county and the town and helping us at least get the water stubbed out under the sidewalk, and we can take it from there.
When do you hope that the shelter will be up and running?
Well, as we're going through this whole process, it's been a learning experience for me. We just discovered from the guys doing the relocation, the Gomez boys from Cuesta, that we needed a state permit to do the footings. They're working on that now. We should have that next week. And then I'm hoping at the end of next week we can get this thing moved across the street. Days are getting shorter, nights are getting colder, and homeless guys don't want to be sleeping in a snowbank. So we're doing everything humanly possible to get this thing expedited.
Okay. Commissioners?
So move for approval, Chairman.
Again.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And item 12, this is budget matters.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Item A, budget adjustment in federal lands grant thinning project. Mr. Leandro Cordova, welcome. Finance Director.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Ms. Padilla had talked about this grant earlier. All we're doing today, we're requesting to move $500 that had originally been put into supplies and just put it into the actual work that's going to be done, so we could give it to the contractors to get some more work done. And I recommend approval.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Second item, budget adjustment, fire excise tax.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this fire excise adjustment is actually for the EMS department. The EMS department would like to use $3,000 from its vehicle line item and put it into uniforms. They would like to purchase some heavy parkas for the winter months for the employees that are out in the conditions. I do believe that they're very high quality and they're going to last for a long time, and he's going to keep some on hand for part-time people as well.
I'll go ahead and second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Third item, budget adjustment, DWI screening assessment fund.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this was for the DWI Screening and Assessment Fund. We found out between preliminary and final budget that we had to put an expense in this fund from another one, and we forgot to put it in. So now we're putting it in so that they can go ahead and get these assessments done through a contractor.
Okay.
I recommend approval.
I'll second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Leandro.
And final one, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, another DWI adjustment. We neglected to put some telephone expenses into their budget, which we are able to kind of reimburse the county for. So we are moving $100 into the telephone line item from other contractual services.
Okay. Madam Clerk? I'm sorry, motion? I'll
Second. Go ahead.
Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item 13, County Manager's Report.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, also, Leandro, congratulations on your little fisherman.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Like I told the Commissioner, if he's going to be a fisherman, I'm going to need someone to help me teach him. Not my strong suit.
Okay, a few items. Mr. Archuleta, item A, update on animal control.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, well, you heard most of the thunder this morning. We definitely are having issues. Obviously, the town of Taos also just lost their animal control officer. We're providing that service within Taos County. I saw the sheriff here earlier, but I think he snuck back out. You know, this is something moving forward that the commission really needs to make a policy decision on. I think we're ready to go either way. I have talked to the candidates for sheriff. They have come in and they have met with me. I can tell you that the two candidates that are out there for the sheriff's department want the animal control to remain under the sheriff's department so that they can continue to assist the animal control. The issue that I have with that is that anytime we run short in the courthouse, then it seems like the animal control officers are pulled off the street and put in the courthouse for security. One officer, we only have 2 officers in all of Taos County. One officer that's pulled in automatically lowers us down 50% in our animal control. And so my alternative recommendation to the commission has been that we move that up to planning, we make it part of our rules and regulations up there in planning, our ordinances, and that we move it in that direction so that they don't get sucked into the courthouse. But I stand for, you know, discussion and a policy decision from the commission on that. We have had several conversations with the board of directors from Stray Hearts. We've also talked with the county board for the animal control. What they would like to see is obviously the animal control officer come under basically the county manager and the planning department so that we have more control over their day-to-day activities and what's going on with their resources.
Well, I like your idea most about bringing it under a different department, taking it away from the sheriff's department at this juncture. But it would be also very interesting to see when we get the new sheriff in January as to what they are able to do with the program. Right now, as was addressed this morning, there are a lot of concerns, a lot of issues that are going on that have basically been ignored. And I just don't want the liability on the county anymore. I think we face some liability on many sides, and just want to make sure that Taos County is protected and that our residents are being served with the best possible animal control program. On the other hand, it would you did mention that the town of Taos had lost their officer. It would be really good to see some discussion for a combination or a joint program between the town and the county that would hopefully increase the amount of people out on the streets, out on the roads, making sure that animal control is being dealt with properly, and some collaboration with the town of Taos, and possibly maybe it would save some money. I don't know, Commissioner Mayor Barone, if you have any thoughts on that.
I think that's a great idea. Those collaborative efforts are, is money, I think, well spent, and there could be savings. Steve, I know since you've been here, have we ever put this particular entity or group or service out for an RFP?
As far as the Stray Hearts,
yeah,
we actually just recently RFP'd that again and awarded the RFP. Bob can tell you specifically the dates, but
I don't know the exact date, but Commissioner, Stray Hearts was the only respondent. We did put it out to RFP, and Stray Hearts was the only one to respond.
Okay, that's what I was curious. I didn't know if it was just an extension of a contract or if there was an RFP actually.
It was an actual RFP this year that was sent out.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're getting.
And I hear you, and just to reassure the commission, we are collaborating with the town of Taos on this. Like I said, we're actually covering the town of Taos right now. We've also collaborated with Cuesta. We've lent them some kennels, and we've also worked with them on trying to do some of the enforcement and trying to work out in that area. We have had some hoarding issues with animals, and the town of Taos and Taos County have worked cooperatively with state police and the sheriff's department and town of Taos police to actually take care of those issues in the past also. So there's some good stuff going on there. I do feel that the ordinance needs to be put in place and updated. I do hear the concerns that some of the other people have, and that's why I want to make sure that we actually have a work study prior to that the commission have the full picture from all points of view, and then that we hopefully come up with a good ordinance that we can push forward. We have sent that ordinance to the town of Taos. We also have sent it to Taos Ski Valley. We've sent it to Cuesta and to Red River. Our hope would be that everybody would hopefully adopt the same ordinance so that if our officers are in the town or they're in the county or they're in Cuesta, the same ordinance is being enforced in those areas in this collaborative effort that we're trying to do with everybody.
Thank you. That's one of the things that I was going to bring up, a unilateral ordinance that would cover both Townie Count and some of the adjoining areas. So I think that would be.
Thank you, Commissioner Barone. Steve, we've had this discussion for quite a bit of time now, and I just wish that we would put it on a very definite timeline, give it a deadline, and make sure that it gets done. I agree with Ms. Herrera where she said this morning that, you know, we need to move forward with it, considering the fact that there are other things that are not allowing it to happen. I think we just need to push it forward and make sure it gets done at this point. And I am glad to hear that the sheriff candidates, both sheriff candidates are wanting to keep it within their department. I would like to see exactly what plans they have and how they would plan to address it once one of them gets elected in November.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and maybe Mr. Malone could elaborate on this a little bit more. It's my understanding that we should be getting a response this week from Mr. Nadelson or from that group to our letter that we sent to Straight Hearts.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. I spoke with Mr. Nadelson last week, and he said that we should expect their counter proposal this week.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'll go ahead and go on to item B if we have no other questions. I wanted to do an update on the citizens' road issues and fill in the commission as to what's been happening on there. Mr. Jaramillo, our Deputy County Manager, has taken a huge role in this process and has actually reached out to other communities around Taos County, across the state of New Mexico to see what other counties are doing with their road viewers. We cannot get that interest. I mean, we're putting it out. We're asking people who are interested, you know, to spend a morning with us, to go out and look at roads, to give an opinion, to fill out the forms, and give that to the commission. So we're looking at alternatives of what other jurisdictions, other counties are doing throughout New Mexico, and then we're going to bring those options back to the commission to set a policy on that. Part of the problem, as the commission's well aware of, is first of all the budget. We did not budget for all of these roads to come into Taos County. We don't have the equipment and the manpower, but yet we have the need, which is out there. And so I think that the commission seriously has to take into consideration the possibility of passing a tax as a possibility to help us out of this. Roads are being brought to our attention every day, and these are roads that people sometimes, as you heard earlier, have to walk 2/10 of a mile, 3/10 of a mile in the mud, in the snow, just to get home. And it doesn't matter if it's night, day, or the middle of the week. It's, you know, they still have to walk that road, and puts people in dangerous situations. But above that, as you can see, this binder that's in front of me, and we've talked about this on a couple of occasions, we have some serious issues with our county-owned bridges in Taos County. This is a listing of every bridge in Taos County, and this is a listing of what has to happen with those bridges. There are 4 bridges in Taos County right now that need to be repaired. Mr. Salazar, I think he just left, but has been working diligently with DOT to look at these bridges, to see what impacts we're going to have on them, and then to find out where we're going to have the resources to fix them. Some of these bridges are estimated in the amount of $4 million to fix. That's a lot of money. And, so the issue comes as to what are the priorities? How do we prioritize those? What do we prioritize? Roads above bridges, bridges above roads. I can tell you that on the bridges section, we don't have a choice. DOT will shut those bridges down if they become unsafe. 4 of those bridges we're working on today. We'll be working on those 4 bridges within the next 3 to 4 months and getting those up to par so that DOT can hopefully give us a passing grade on those, and those bridges will continue to be open and available for our Taos County residents. And so that's what we have in front of us. We're looking at alternatives for the road viewers. We've done some pavement issues, as you guys know. This year, we're putting a lot of base course, a lot of pit run on different roads. I think that you guys have seen the change over the last 3 months as to our response time, our cruise times, the work that our crews are doing out there. But our equipment also is getting very, very old. We no longer have rust on our equipment. We now have holes in the equipment. We're trying to weld pieces of metal to different parts of the equipment. Our snow removal equipment was loaded last week in preparation for snow removal this winter. We had to replace 3 motors on our spreaders out there. We have at this point talked to Senator Cisneros and Representative Gonzalez about the possibility of looking at some equipment. We're looking at leasing other equipment, turning in some of the leased equipment that we have, getting other equipment out here. We wrote a letter to Molycorp or Chevron Mining actually asking for some of their used equipment or that we could purchase some of their used equipment so that we could utilize on our county roads. But it's coming to a situation to where we're either going to have to dedicate a lot of our general fund money and cut a lot of other services out, or we're going to have to pass some kind of a tax in order to get this road situation under control.
What are some of the, which are some of the bridges that you're concerned about?
Los Cordovas Bridge is the #1 bridge that's on there. We've met with DOT. We've had a meeting in Santa Fe. We also had a meeting up here. They've told us the bracing that needs to happen on that, how we need to take that all off. We have the Arroyo Hondo Bridge down, and there's actually 2 bridges in Arroyo Hondo that are on the DOT list right now. The one as you get off or as you hit the pavement, which is our #1 bridge, we thought it was the lower one. The lower one, as you get down to the bottom of Arroyo Hondo before the John Dunn Bridge, right before that one, that's the 3rd bridge that's on it. And Brett, do you remember what the 4th one is? Millicent Rogers is the 4th bridge. Those are the 4 top priorities on that.
So Pilar Bridge and Tom Holder are fine?
Pilar Bridge is a bridge that is on the DOT's list that hasn't gotten to the level of concern that these other bridges have gotten to. And so it's something DOT basically told us by December of this year, those 4 bridges that we have on our list need to be fixed.
Have they looked at Pilar?
They have looked at Pilar Bridge. They are continuing to monitor the Pilar Bridge, and they're giving us a report on that bridge. But so, like I said, here's,
To monitor, to
wait, to monitor.
Chairman, Commissioners, they said Pilar could wait a little bit further along the lines is because they know we don't have $2 million to fix that bridge, and that's what they're estimating that it would cost us is $2 million to fix that bridge. We're also looking at some alternatives for Pilar with some of the materials that they have on hand. They have old rafters that we could possibly use, but we need to hire an engineer to do that. So they let us wait on Pilar just because of the cost that it's gonna take to fix it.
But at some point, it needs to be on some list, right?
Correct. It's in this booklet, and it's here for us to review, but the DOT would like those other 4 done this year, and then to come up with a plan for Pilar.
And the Tom Holder Bridge, it's just as bad.
It's probably within their top 10, but they gave us the 4 that they would like to see first. Tom Holder is, in their top 10 that needs to get fixed. It's not in this packet, but we do have a list of the ratings of how they would, of how the bridges rate, and I know it's in the top 10.
Okay, well, both of those bridges are on my district, and we've had discussion on Pilar for 12 years now, at least, since I've been, the many times that I've been on the county commission. It is of major concern. I don't know if the staff has been on it, if they've driven through it, but there is a community of at least 40 residents on the other side of the Rio Grande, and so I would like to see it prioritized at some point. I would like to see it included on this list of 4 bridges. The same thing with Tom Holder Road. It's not wide enough. People have to stop at one end or the other. The physical character of it is falling apart. I don't know if anyone has bothered to look at it and take photographs of the bottom portion of the bridge, but it's in the same situation that the Los Cordovas Bridge is. And so I would ask staff to look at both of them and see what we can do about them as well.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as I mentioned earlier, we have actually have photographs of all those bridges. We have those available. We also are working a plan with DOT as to what they would allow us to do. Again, a total replacement of a bridge would be great, but because we don't have the money, we're looking at, okay, so what kind of steel can we use underneath? How much reinforcement can we do? And, you know, at what length of the reinforcement. The one that we're going to totally have to reface the top portion is Los Cordovas Bridge. So staff have been out there. They have looked at it. It becomes an issue of money. I mean, where do we get the money from and how do we move forward? And so that's why I was stating earlier that they all tie in. It all ties into adopting roads, using roads, money for base course, for pavement, for or to use that money to buy the steel that we need. At this point, DOT has also stepped up to the plate and actually given us some steel that we're now welding together to try to make the braces that we need in order to do that. The crews have been instructed that this has to be done before December. DOT is monitoring them, and so we're in the process this week of actually welding those pieces together, figuring out the length of the beams that we need to put in there, purchasing those, and moving forward with them. So we have pictures of them, we have seen them, staff have been out there. It's a matter of, you know, are we going to pass a tax, or are we just going to take that out of general fund? And if we take it out of general fund, I mean, I could come up with a plan where we go 17 departments and figure out how much we're going to cut from each one of those departments. I can tell you, though, Commissioners, that doing the $2.8 million deficit that we had within Taos County, we've cut every department to the bare bones. So at this point, it's going to be a matter of stopping services on some of these things if that's how we want to move forward. It's up to the commission.
Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Archuleta, going back to the road equipment, and I don't know how, I know Chevron's has an auction there in Cuesta where they're putting all their equipment, trucks, skidsters, graders, loaders, and I don't know what kind of help they would, if they would even think of, you know, helping us with equipment. I don't know. It's something that we may want to go and.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I actually wrote a letter to Chevron Mining. We put a list. We actually sent pictures of our equipment so that they could get a grasp of the equipment that we're currently using. And then we sent a letter prioritizing basically the equipment that we're asking for. On the open market, basically, the response back from Chevron Mining was that we have a right to go to the auction like everybody else and bid for the equipment. They're going to liquidate all of their equipment through the auction. The problem with that is that we're competing with contractors. We're competing with not public entities, but private entities. And so, you know, those bids are going to be outrageous. I sent my crew about 3 weeks ago down to Santa Fe. We were looking at buying a front-end loader from DOT Last week, we had put in a bid of $39,000, I believe. Leandro can correct me if I'm... $28,000. And somebody came in and put a bid of $31,000, and they took the front-end loader and went off, to their jurisdiction. So it's a matter of bidding for this equipment. It's a matter of trying to get it and being out there. But we are in the process of actually, and the bad thing is that we don't have, if things go well in June and we have the PILT come in, maybe we can do a portion of the PILT money in order to buy some of this equipment. That's an option that we have available. We're doing now in November, we're actually doing the 1/8 GRT that's out there and repurposing that possibly. That could give us a little bit of extra money we could do there, but it really needs to be prioritized because, again, this is where public safety equipment needs to get to the public, needs to get to their home, and if our bridges and our roads aren't up to par for them to get there, we're gonna be failing our community and our constituents. Or the alternative is that we look at a tax. That's the alternative that's out there. But somehow those decisions need to be made.
Archuleta, I agree with you, on this auction in Cuesta, there's going to be some
high-end
big
bidders.
money that's going to come in, and we're not going to have a chance at all. What I do, I had a gentleman from Red River call me on a loader. It's low hours and one owner. And I can check and see. He was asking 20 for it, big loader, and I can check into that one. I don't know if it's still available, if he sold it, but I can check to see what he make. Just give us a better deal. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Sanchez, that would be great. I mean, right now in Taos County, we have one front-end loader for 5 districts. We're using the backhoes. Our staff is using the backhoes basically to put in the scoria during the winter in order to get it up there, which it's not efficient. I mean, it takes us 3 times the amount of time to fill up the little bucket on the backhoe, where our front-end loader, which with one bucket would actually put a ton of scoria in the back end of a truck. And so that's what we're using, some of our equipment, and we have pictures of it. Don't have lights, so it's hard to have them out in the roads or have them dealing with issues like we did with the flood services this year, when we can't get that equipment back to our base camp after we've been using it throughout the evening, and it creates a hazard for our staff also with the equipment that they're currently using.
And Steve, the bridges that we have been prioritized, correct?
That's correct.
That's what because Commissioner Romero was asking for that, and they have been prioritized.
Correct.
And the reason I said Tom Holder, that's actually a box culvert, and actually the structure, there's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with it is the pavement on top, and it's too narrow.
Correct.
But the actual structure, there's not much wrong with it. It just needs to be widened out, and eventually, because we did acquire some property, and maybe through that funding that we got, if there's enough funding there, that engineering work would actually filter through that. Hopefully there's enough money to get that done.
The Tom Holder Bridge, as the deputy manager said, is in the top 10. Right. It's not in the top 4. We're taking care of the top 4 between now and December and making sure that we have those top 4. Then those 4 can be taken off, and we'll move everything up, and then we'll try to look and see for next year's funding of how that's going to.
Actually, the structure of Tom Holder Road is in bad shape, and you need to look at it, Commissioner.
I did. I went with DOT.
The DOT engineer has looked at that, Commissioner, who's certified on the bridge certifications, and they're the ones that helped with the prioritization.
Including the railing on the sides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you want me to move on to item C.
Candace? I just wanted to welcome our Commission-elect individuals, candidates, Candace and Mr. Fambro.
Mr. Chairman, could someone explain why you did not put the GO bonds on the ballot when you had your meeting with the bond representatives, and that would have really solved the problems right now? So could someone explain to me why that didn't go on the ballot?
Mr. Archuleta.
Mr. Chairman, I just was told that Mr. Quinones is in the building. I'm not sure if we want to recess real quick and then take on this conversation. Basically, that's a policy decision that the commission has to make. We did a work study on that. We brought all the information forward to the commission, and if the commission wants to vote on that, we can put that on the commission agenda. But at this point, I think there was a separation between the commission as to whether or not they want to pass another tax. I mean, we do have, as I mentioned earlier, the issue around repurposing that 1/8. That's going to be about $850,000 to $1.2 million on that repurpose. And so it's...
Was that decision ever made publicly? I can't remember.
I'd have to go back and look. I know that we had a work study on it. All the information was presented. RBC has been actually waiting for us to move forward or not move forward with that. And it just hasn't been made. There's some
And I think there was a little confusion when she mentioned GO bond. The GO bond is actually a bond that's for the schools. So you just don't want to get those two confused.
Right.
There is a GO bond that is going to be on the ballot, and so you don't want to get those two confused.
So that's the answer to the question, Mr. Chairman.
We'll kind of follow up with that, Steve, as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Candace, for bringing that up. We'll go ahead and, if you want to, continue with Mr. Quinones.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we would need a motion to move into executive at this time so that we can meet upstairs with Mr. Quinones. And it's, I believe, Mr. Malone, it's under item, is it 14 and 15?
Yes.
Yes.
Steve, it's both items 14 and 15, which are related. Mr. Quinones is only here to talk about the one that's under legal matters, but there's no point in taking two separate executive sessions.
Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for executive session. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Thielke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to refer to 13A. Seems like the presentations this morning on animal control that we have issues, language, and enforcement that really needs to be considered before a final ordinance. Is the commission planning a work study before?
Yes. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Yes.
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 Executive
Second.
into regular.
Madam Clerk.
Oh, yeah.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodney.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Malone, for his report. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Mr. Malone, go ahead.
The county commission met in executive session to consider two matters. One matter was a personnel matter regarding the Adult Detention Center director. The county commission was entitled to meet in executive session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act exemption 1015-1H2 on that matter. The county commission also met in connection with a legal matter pending litigation involving the Adult Detention Center. The county commission is entitled to meet in executive session under the Open Meetings Act exemption 1015-1H7 for pending or threatened litigation. Those were the only two matters discussed. No action was taken.
Okay. So move to accept the county attorney's report.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Steve, if you want to go ahead and continue with your report and matters.
Mr. Chairman, under item 13, again, county manager's report, we'll go on to item C, meeting with state legislators. And I think item C and item D on some level go together, but I'll go ahead and talk about item C just in particular. We have had an initial meeting already with Senator Cisneros. The purpose of that was to talk about the legislative session coming up. I also am asking the legislators and the representatives what their priorities are for this year. I think it's also important for us to know what their priorities are because they're going to have the final say-so as to where that money's going. And if we can be a part of that final priority and we can hopefully have Taos County involved in that process, then I think it's a win-win for all of us. Let me see where we have Representative Gonzalez. We're in the process of setting up that meeting with him. Items to discuss with Representative Gonzalez are, again, capital outlay, historical districts, Veteran Cemetery and Chevron mining issues. The issues that we discussed with Senator Cisneros were Veteran Cemetery, Chevron issues, and capital outlay, and also support on the historical districts. What we're doing right now with the fourth floor in Santa Fe is actually trying to work on some language for the historical districts, and then we're also trying to work on some language for the Veteran Cemetery. Under the Veteran Cemetery, the language that we're trying to craft is an exemption for veterans to be buried in Taos County with the land that the county commission gave, but to be exempt from that. What's happening in Roswell right now is that the Veterans Association has actually filed a lawsuit against the city of Roswell. The property was donated by a private individual. The city of Roswell took it over. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but they had brought in these structures of where they would put in the ashes and stuff for the veterans. But now, because of the anti-donation issue, veterans are being charged to be buried there. And so we're asking the Senator Cisneros and Representative Gonzalez to sponsor a bill to exempt veterans from the anti-donation, and it would be something that we would bring forward in February to them. For the Commission's issue, the legislative session begins on January 20th. The reason that I said C and D sort of go together is that we are planning a retreat, and I believe the dates are December 17th and 18th and possibly the 19th here in Taos County, to meet with the new elected officials and the staying elected officials on the future of Taos County, to do some strategic planning sessions. We are also, Brent and I have been working on a report format. What we're asking each one of the department heads is to come in and report to the commission so that we can give you an organizational chart, we can give you a budget. The new officials are elected after November in order to do that. So the dates that we have planned out for that is 17th, 18th, and then if we need to, the 19th. We're also looking at somebody to come in and help with some strategic planning for the future. I don't know if you've noticed, but I like graphs and I like things to be on Excel spreadsheets because it sort of gives the commission an overview of what's going on. It also is a good reminder. So what we've done at this point is we put in all the roads, the LGRF, the CAP co-op and all of that on a spreadsheet. We put the roads on there so that the commission says, these are the priorities, this is where the resolutions were passed, and these are the roads that we're doing for the next 2 years. They get kind of cumbersome sometimes. Are we talking 13, 14? Are we talking 14, 15? Are we talking 15, 16? Spreadsheets help you have a more visual on that. And so part of what we're wanting to do is a strategic planning session. What are going to be our top priorities for the next year? How we're going to move those forward? And then what grants, what applications are we going to have those, are we going to put the bridges on there? What bridges are our top 4 priorities? And then where we're going to go after the funding for those. And then that way we can keep moving down that line. So I stand for any questions, reference meeting with legislators.
And so the newly elected officials will be made aware of those dates for the county retreat. And are you looking at an area, specific areas to where to have the retreat?
We're somewhere away from the county so that we can have the full attention of everybody who's there. I guess we don't want phone calls coming in. We don't want people walking out for 10 minutes to take a phone call or deal with a particular issue. We do want to keep it in Taos County so that we can keep the GRTs within Taos County. And so we're just trying to figure out who would host us and where we could go.
SMU.
SMU?
SMU,
Okay.
I've kind of briefly talked to them.
Okay, great.
If you want to bring your fly rod, they could house you over there if you want to spend the night.
Awesome. And we want someplace close to that we can have our department heads actually drive up for that day, do their presentation, and then come back the next day for the strategic planning session that we're going to be doing for that. But they don't necessarily have to sit through the whole process.
There's also the newly elected officials conference meeting that's going to take place in Santa Fe, and that's in November, I believe.
That's correct. We already have those We already have those dates. Renell is already working with the new elected officials.
But it's
to
also
attend that.
open to existing officials as
Correct.
well. And I'd like
Yes.
to
Okay.
to be.
Well, we'll let Renell know on that. Just write that down. Is that's part of where my military comes out, is I think that once you go to boot camp the first time, you never have to go back again, Commissioner, but.
The board is actually, has been asked by Mr. Kopelman to consider attending again.
Great.
Just to
Awesome.
kind of refresh and
Okay.
re-inspire, I guess.
So again, the dates, the tentative dates are December 17th and 18th, possibly 19th. We're looking for a venue right now. We're also looking for a venue for food. And then also, Mr. Cordova is working on where the budget funding to pay for the retreat's going to come out from. The department heads will take about 30 minutes to do their presentation is the time frame we're giving them. And we'll also have a format so that all the formats are the same. It's easy to follow. And it'll be something nice that the commissioners can actually put in a large binder at the end of the day and take it home with them for in case they have any questions or concerns about that. The last day will be for strategic planning sessions.
I think we should also open it up, specifically what I'm looking at is for the county commission, for a time for them, the incoming especially, well, all of them, to present some ideas as to what they would like to see incorporated into this overall county plan.
Yes, sir. Day 2 is actually going to be the strategic planning day, and that's when we're going to basically sit at a round table, hopefully with the facilitators. What I'd like to see, I can facilitate some of that, but I don't do a lot of strategic plannings to where we can have an outcome at the end of the day, but everybody will give their input throughout that second day and possibly third day if we need it. Yes, sir. And so Mr. Richard Sanchez is here to talk about E911 and the updates, unless we have any other questions on the other items.
Real quick, E911.
E911, Chairman, Commissioners, E911 is moving forward on schedule, on time, and on budget. The last major hurdle is the water rights for the additional software for the additional entities that'll be our partners in the JPA. It's going before, we had a meeting with the town council, the manager and their attorney, and I believe they have it on today's agenda to discuss the water rights software exchange, how we're going to do this. Hopefully that'll be taken care of today and we can start the purchasing process for the additional software. Right now, we have 2 contractors working upstairs in the 911 facility. Furniture's, the actual 911 dispatch desks are being installed as we speak. The backroom contractor is doing pre-wiring, ladder racks. The air conditioning's already in place. Budgetary-wise, I believe we're right on track, right at the limit of the $1.47 million that the commission approved. Mr. Cordova, Ms. Elam, and myself are working on a detailed budget breakdowns. We're planning on presenting it at the next commission meeting, and so the stakeholders will have an itemized breakdown of where the money went, how it was spent at the sheriff's over here, and everything else. Amity and myself are hoping to do a open house for the public and public officials, probably the 3rd week of November, just before Thanksgiving. It'd be nice for the public to be able to see where the money's gone and how modern the facility and the equipment is that we're installing. Any questions?
Thank you.
And how long, you planned for a transition, I mean, as far as, you're going to start training at this facility and yet keep that facility open?
Actually,
I've kind of gone through it already, but.
There will be training while the other facility on Gustorf is still open in November. There won't be, once the training's done, there's actually the actual cutoff date, tentative cutoff date, cut over date right now is Wednesday, December 3rd. We will be going live at the new facility if everything continues on schedule like it is, and they will be here full-time on December 3rd, and we'll be operational out of here.
Less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months, yes, sir.
And the town will be writing the county a check instead of the county writing it.
We'll be both putting a check into the common pot, I hope.
I hope so, too.
Okay.
I think it's a win-win for everybody. I think it's going to be a great facility, and the whole thing is that our constituents are taken care of, you know.
That's the most
That's the
important
link between fire, EMS, you know, any service, that's the biggest link.
Yes, sir.
And we don't want that to deteriorate, so, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Richard. Steve?
Chairman, Commissioners, any other questions? Those were all the items that I had on my agenda.
That is it for now.
So move to adjourn, Chairman.
I'll go ahead and second, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Yes.